Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Kevin, and this is No Longer Ashamed.
We are survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
And we're here to share with you that if you're a survivor, you don't have to be alone.
Our logo is a salamander, and the reason is a fire salamander can survive a fire, and you have survived a fire.
We want to help you with your journey to healing and hope.
We are all survivors together, and we walk this journey together, and you are not alone.
By telling our stories, we are hoping that you will have the courage to share your stories as well and find your voice.
Because stories are so important, and for so long I know that I wouldn't tell my story, but when I finally shared my story, that's when I got my freedom.
And this is our journey and your journey to healing and hope. So come with us. Today we have a guest. His name is Carazas, and he has written the book, Now That I'm Still Here. And it's a memoir of ruin and resurrection. And Chris is a survivor of, I guess you would call it, neurodivergent abuse. You were diagnosed as autistic later in life, but you suffered abuse from your wife
and her mom.
And her mother especially, yes. And that led to suicidal attempts. And this is your memoir of that.
Yeah, and it was an accidental one. Yeah, like you said, I went my whole life feeling weird and not knowing I was autistic. I just, especially in high school, I just thought I was being a teenager, like everyone feels awkward when they're a teenager, especially in high school. And what I was doing and what I didn't have the word for was autistic masking, right? That's what I relate my dark passenger to, is the thing that kind of like made me. It was that internal dialogue that made me socially acceptable, right? Yeah. So that no one would suspect that I was feeling any different. And yeah, but other than that, like once I mastered becoming socially digestible, I led a pretty unremarkable life. I did everything you were supposed to, like graduate high school, go to college, and get a job. And I did that. My first job was working with a mining company in Madagascar with their corporate social responsibility team. We moved back to the States, and I was working for federal contractors in the USAID realm. We implemented humanitarian assistance projects overseas. So that sent me to places like Bangladesh, Mali, Benin, Haiti. So, and it wasn't until about 2016 where my then wife was still we were in the same field, and she decided to go into special education and get her master's in special education. And about her third day in, she's like, Chris, I think you may be autistic. And I was like, I was super ignorant about autism then. And I was like, hey, I am not the Rain Man. I have look, I'm engaging with you. I have a job. We're paying the bills. I drive a car. Hell, I'm keeping a dog alive. How can I be autistic? And so we postponed that diagnosis for years until about 2020, where she brought it up for the millionth time. And I was like, fine, if this is gonna get you to shut up and leave me alone about being autistic, what do I need to do? She's like, yeah, I have an autism quotient test. Take this, So I did it, and I scored. I think the threshold is 30. It's like that's what you have to, the minimum score you have to get before they recommend getting tested, right? I scored a 36. It was like a 37. I took it 3 times. It was clustered in the same range. Then I was like, all right, well, I'll get tested. And 2 things happened. One, while I was going through the process of getting diagnosed, I learned more about autism, and I was like, oh damn, it's the Rain Man is one end of it, right? And I learned that it was a spectrum, and I was like, oh, Chris, that's why they call it a autism spectrum disorder, right? And yeah, so, and then I got diagnosed, and then everything I had felt, and was feeling up until that point, everything had a name, and it's like, okay, now I know what to address and how to coexist with it in a healthier way, rather than trying to hide it and suppress it. And so in that moment where I should have felt free and finally have that eureka moment, almost immediately it began. Started with my wife's mom. Oh, you're defective. And you're an embarrassment. You shouldn't be married to my daughter because, well, you're on the spectrum. And there was that initial WTF moment where it's like my wife and I were fine up until that point. Like I was, it was in air quotes stereotypical. I was being a provider. She was working too, but like when she became a teacher, I was making significantly more. So I was the breadwinner, and that's just a function of teachers don't get paid well in this country, right? And which I think we should fix. Teachers should get paid more, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yes.
And so it was like by the time I got diagnosed, we had bought our first home, and I'm like, I bought a house, and provide like what is going on here? Like, and then you get so tired of fighting, and then tell it, I would go to my wife and say, hey, what she's saying is kind of not cool. Well, you should kind of suck it up because she's my last surviving parent, and I don't want to get in the middle of the both of you, and it's going to destroy my relationship with my mom. And I'm like, but she was part of African American. So if you know who Trevor Noah is, he's kind of like Trevor Noah. And so it's like, it's the equivalent of if my parents came over and said, well, you're half black. Like my son shouldn't be married to you. Right.
Yeah.
It's that, it's discrimination is discrimination. Right. And it's wrong. And then she started joining in. And for 3 years, it was not only are you an embarrassment, but you should really consider killing yourself because the world would be better without you. And when you hear that lie of worthlessness over and over and over again, and you believe it. And so I listened twice. I tried twice, like you mentioned earlier. And thankfully, I failed. And I'm very strategic about using that term failed, right? And it was the summer before I left, I had a conversation with my sister. I told her what was going on, what had happened, and that we were trying. Like we're going to therapy now, marriage counseling, and we'll see how it goes. And counseling ended when the therapist said, hey, what's the matter with you? Like, as a special educator, you're telling your autistic husband to kill himself? Like, and on top of it, and I was so thankful someone else other than me said this. Like, you pushed him to get tested, and now you're convincing him to like kill himself. This is the equivalent of murder. And that's when therapy ended. And I started to fade, and I called up my sister and I said, hey, I don't think I could hang on anymore. Because after that, it continued. It started up again of, well, Chris, kill yourself. Like, the world's better without you. And something in me didn't want to. The first two were horrible. And so my sister was like, hey, you're packing a bag. You're packing up Shadow, and I'm coming to get you. So she drove from Massachusetts to Maryland, got me, and came back home. I'm originally from Massachusetts, and so it was nice to finally be back home. And I started the process of divorce. I got talked into giving her a second, in this case it would have been a third chance, but that she would change, and that I'm so sorry, and this and that. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm not going back to that house, because after I had that distance, like I couldn't see myself going back there and getting immersed in there was too much baggage there. And I was like, okay, well, here's the deal. You'll get your chance, but we're going to sell the house. We're moving to Massachusetts. I don't care what you do, but you need to have a job. And by the time we fully move up here, and I'm giving you 6 months to give it a go. Do you think you can handle that? Yeah. I want you to know what you're getting yourself into, though. Like, my family does not want to see you. They don't want anything to do with you. And it's going to be hard because I don't want anything to do with you. So, or you can, just no hard feelings. We can just walk away and call it a day. No, I really want this chance. And so we sold the house. She came up. I went down there to help pack up. We fully moved back up to Massachusetts in December of 2023. And things were fine until it was Valentine's Day. It was that evening, like her phone was buzzing, and I was trying to, I got woken up, and I did one of these, like, swat the other side of the bed to like wake her up, but she wasn't there. She was in the other room. So I like rolled over and tried to put her phone on don't disturb. And as I was doing that, message came up about, it was from her mom saying, "Hey, can't wait to show you those condos in Maryland, like when you come here." I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, or sorry, what the hell? I woke her up. I was like, what is this? What's the condos? What's like what is this?" "Oh, I was gonna tell you." "Tell me what?" "Oh, I hate it here. I don't like my students here, and I miss Maryland, and you know, like I just can't be here. And you didn't talk to me about this. This is like a big decision. You begged for this chance." Oh, she didn't like that, and she finally handed me a knife, and was like, why don't you finish what you started, bro? Like, just do it right this time." And I mean, I dropped the knife, and I was like, had a conversation with my sister, and thankfully my sister took charge, and she was like, "You're not talking to her anymore. Like, just you're staying with me for a few days." And she told her, "Hey, get out. You have 3 days to pack your stuff, leave. Don't care what you do, but like, this is not sustainable for my brother." And I ended up getting, I checked myself into a hospital because I was not, like, everything came back in.
Yeah.
And I think it was scary for me to do that because, like, in my mind, I was like, there's gonna be when people find out about this, there's gonna be a stigma that, oh, Chris was in a psych ward and he's unstable, and like, I thought it was gonna feed the stereotype, right? But I think ultimately it was the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
Because a few things happened. One of them was I saw a lady who looked like my grandmother. Like, literally, she was the same height, same hairstyle, everything. And she was kind of like wandering the hall, like sobbing and wailing. Now, my initial thought was like, damn, she's crazy, you know? Like, and I know there are a lot of judgmental people out there. I can just tell by looking at them. And anyway, bad dad joke, bad dad joke. But one of the pauses in her sobbing, I don't know what prompted. I was like, "Hey, you doing okay?" And she was like, in broken English, she was like, "I don't speak English." And I was like, "What do you speak?" "Portuguese." "Well, I happen to speak Spanish, so we were able to communicate." And I was like, "What? How you doing?" "Well, my son died a few days ago, and he left behind 3 kids, and like, I don't know what to do with myself." In that moment, I saw my mom in her. Like, this lady loves her son so much that when she lost him, it drove her to come here.
Yeah.
What's that gonna do to my mom? Right? My mom is likely going to end up here. So that was moment number one. That was really impactful. The other one, I met this Colombian girl. I was like, in my mind, I wasn't there to make friends. I was there to like work on me. And she had heard me speaking in French to the staff because a lot of them were Haitian, and so, and I speak French, and she like asked me like, you speak Spanish, right? I'm like, yeah. I was like, how'd you know? She's like, I heard you talking to the lady. And so her and I like became close. Like, she told me her story, and it's like, I survived something similar. I'm trying to survive something similar. So we became unlikely allies, and she had gotten there a few days before me, and like, we spent our days chatting and playing chess and Monopoly, of all things. And we did our group projects together. So I was like translating between English and Spanish for her because she didn't speak English. So anyway, long story short, I get out of there. I go through an intense outpatient program after that, and then I'm walking my old lady around the pool at one summer day, and seeing a friend in the complex sitting by the pool, and I met this lady. I saw my friend talking to this cute girl, and I was like, I want to go talk. I want to go insert myself in this conversation for like 10 minutes, and just to say hi, like, just how, like, I'm gonna get a chance to say hi to a cute girl and call it a day. And like, I was not expecting anything to come out of it. Next thing you know, talking for a few hours. Next thing you know, hey, want to come and do 4th of July with me? And there we have it. We started dating just a few days after we met, and she was the complete opposite of what I had left. I wasn't ready to date. Like, I was not looking for anything. I was a hot mess. And on one hand, I regret dating her because I was such a hot mess, and I put her through a lot. I was projecting for things that really wasn't hers,
Mm.
right? And but she loved me anyway. She was like, "Bro, like I got you. Like like you're going through a rough time. Let's go karting." And she had such a sense of humor. Damn. Like anyway, I credit her to the reason why I've catapulted up to or accelerated version of my healing, because like for every one day of bad I had with my ex-wife, she brought 10 days of good, right? And then she got sick in March of last year, and I started writing. That's the only thing I could do, because like I wanted her to know why I was so messed up, right? She had snippets. She didn't have the full story, and I would read it. It started off as a confession, like, "Hey, this is why I'm so tough to love, and I'm sorry." Like it started off that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was until so when I got to her chapter, she passed away, right? The same day I finished it. And I thought, well, that's it, like that's the end of my story, right? So my sister comes one day and to get me. We were gonna go out to lunch. And I was like, I need a shower, and my computer was open to the Word document. I was like rereading her chapter. Like I was like Eeyore listening to a TED talk, but instead of listening, I was reading a TED talk. And so when I go up to get my shower, I come back down. Chris, what the hell is this? It's just, something I was writing to Katie. I named her Marianne in the book, but her name is Katie. She's like, this is really good. Like I was like, I don't have to be nice. Like I know Katie just died. Like you don't have to be nice. And she was like, no, like in the 10 minutes you were gone, I read 4 chapters just like that. This is really good. Like I literally told her, like, I told her to like F off, like don't stop being nice. And so she was like, hey, like, you gonna finish this? I'm like, no, like Katie's gone. I'm not finishing this. And she convinced me. Well, I should say her mother-in-law and sister convinced me, because she's like, I'll leave you alone if you send it to them and get their opinion, because her mother-in-law's sister was in the publishing industry. And she's like, I'll leave you alone if you do that. Okay. I don't need any more women telling me what to do. No, and hashtag that's a joke. That's or asterisk. That's a joke. And I got a response back saying, we stayed up all night reading this, and if you don't finish this, we are breaking your kneecaps. And I reflected on that for a minute, and I said, I need my kneecaps, because who's gonna take Shadow out on a walk? And and for all the listeners, Shadow's my dog.
Beautiful
My
German Shepherd.
Yeah, and here we are. That's me. So I ended up finishing the book, and I was like, well, I promised I'd finish it. I didn't promise I'd publish it. Because that was the scary part. It was it was so sensitive. I mean, I'm putting myself out there talking about suicide, like depression, being in a ward, and like what like I was still fighting that stigma, right? Of what are people gonna think? Because it wasn't. So long story short, I published it. And in December, no, yes, December, I was at the coffee shop where I wrote it. I was pre-signing some books, and there's these young couple. I'm gonna call them kids, but they're not kids. They're like in their 20s. These 2 kids come up and like, hey, what is this? Is this your book? And Shadow was with me, so they wanted to say hi to Shadow, and we get talking about the book. And as we're talking about the book, this lady comes up and says, both of you need to get this book. And I looked at her and I was like, well, thank you, and she's like, I don't know if you remember me. I bought a book off of you a few weeks ago. And I was like, no, I don't remember you. we were at the park, and you were petting my labs, and we were talking about me writing, and you told me about your book, and you gave me a copy, and your book helped me stay. She told me, she was telling us like she was like this close to jumping off that ledge, right? And that was like defibrillator to my soul. As soon as she said that, like, and at that point, I was like, man, this story isn't mine anymore. It's our story.
Yeah.
And in a moment, I realized like I've achieved what I wanted to achieve. Really, is like help one person stay, and that's why I published it. Like, because that's for me. Is like if I can like at least help one person stay, that's gonna be enough. Because we
Mhm.
don't have we don't have stories that really don't end in that cinematic kind of good way. Like everything seems to end in a nice tidy box, but that's not reality. The reality is a lot messier than that. Like healing is not linear.
Mhm.
And that's how I structured my story. That's why my story jumps around a lot, because
Yeah.
I try to be metaphoric on my healing journey, or I wanted to be metaphoric on how the healing journey works. And like
So, Kevin, how
um
did you hear about Chris's book?
Well, he emailed us, and so I immediately got the book.
Oh, okay.
And, just the description of it online, I just had to see it. And yeah, it's
Mm,
stunning work. It's a beautiful book.
wow.
I don't say that lightly. It affected me. Normally, when we interview authors, I like to get the book and read it, know more about it. And it's kind of an information gathering thing to get the book and read it and do all that. That's, I want to have the background and understand their story and so forth. But with your book, Chris, I couldn't just consume it. I had to absorb it. I had to recognize it's so intimate and it's so honest and it's beautiful the way you wrote it. It's poetic. I mean, just the lyrical way. It's musical in ways, and but mostly I had to absorb the effect it was having on me because so many of the things you talked about, the masks, the disappearing, and so much of that affected me in so many ways because it was a recognition. But you wrote about it in a way that was like you were giving away the secrets. You were talking about things I have a hard time talking about, and we do this podcast, and you were just revealing your secrets in a way that was so intimate. I was just awestruck, really, Chris. I was so moved by your book. And I intend to, give away copies to many people because I think it's beautiful.
I
One.
mean, it means a lot. And I try to do it in such a way that I really wanted to have it be like I was gut punching the reader. Like, because
Mhm.
that's what my entire life felt like. It was just a huge gut punch. Not all of it. I mean, I like the undiagnosed autism was a huge gut punch. It felt like that every day, and I wanted people to see that and feel
Yeah.
that. And I wanted the reader to also feel find a way to convey the intensity of the psychological abuse, but also like in between there was I put it in three parts, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to put in between a little pause of heavy, and so I talked about some of the things that shaped me, like my neighborhood, and not all of it was bad, and I wanted
Yeah.
to also give that gut punch of goodness too, and
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it was very effective. I definitely had a few good punches, but I thank you for them because they woke me up, to tell you the truth. I mean, seriously, I was looking at things that I hadn't recognized for a while, that I'd just gotten complacent about, and I really needed that gut punch and just I mean, you inspired me to start journaling again. I haven't done that for many years. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like when you got diagnosed with autism, was that helpful for you, or was it
That's what I
something
was.
that changed you in a good way, or changed you in a way that helped you?
I think if we remove the psychological abuse from
Mm-hmm.
it, I think it was extremely helpful. So I'll say it this way: I started my college career at a place called Landmark College that
Yeah.
specializes in kids with learning disabilities. I was diagnosed ADHD, and when I went there at the time, it was a school, a 2-year school that helped you learn the tool, like helped you understand the way your brain works.
Yeah.
and so that you can be successful in a 4-year school and beyond that, right? And when I got diagnosed, I kind of took what I had learned at Landmark and to apply and applied it to my new diagnosis. I wanted to learn and understand the way my brain worked, so that I didn't want to get a sense of learned helplessness of like, oh, I can't do this because I'm autistic, or I wanted to leverage it as a moment for growth. Like, oh, this is why I get so tense around tight spaces and crowded spaces. Like, okay, how do I need to commute to work and train. How can I make it so that it's comfortable for me, right? Like I can't avoid taking trains, and so I kind of like had that application and that angle of like, let me learn about me so that I can survive this world as an autistic person without falling into the trap of victimhood, right? And
Yeah.
so it was, I think, a force for good. It taught me a little bit about self advocacy and like telling people, okay, like, and being okay enough to tell people like, hey, it's a little too loud for me. I'll be back. I just need to step outside for 5 minutes, and that's all I need. Like, go outside, quiet, breathe, and then come back and like rejoin. And then like people understand like, oh, he must be overstimulated right now. So it's like, go have my little Zen moment, come back, and I'm ready to go again. And so yeah, it was really good. It taught me a lot about empathy with other people too, of like people struggle, they don't often show it, and it kind of made me a little bit more attuned to my fellow man on like, are you struggling too, man? Like, I'm here. I can be a shoulder. I may not necessarily hug you or have the right things to say, but I can listen. I'm good at that, and sometimes it's just letting it out. So I think it was mostly good.
Did you kind of feel like when, like you said, taking the awful part out, that a lot of your life suddenly made more sense?
Oh yeah, like it really did. Like I often, this is the reason why I don't have kids, right? Because like, and literally nothing against kids. I love other people's kids. But like I always thought like it was weird that they made me so uncomfortable, right? And I never understood why. And then as I started learning about autism, and I was like, oh, this is why they make me uncomfortable. They make me uncomfortable because they're unpredictable and they're rambunctious, and I'm getting sensory overload, and the pitch of their voice is also what's making me uncomfortable. And so like, how do I, now that I know this, like how do I work with it so that like I can be around kids, and I can't avoid kids. Like, they're gonna be at Target, they're gonna be at the mall, they're gonna be at the coffee shop. So how do I make it so that I can coexist? And so like there were a lot of like little clicks like that. Or so yeah, it put all the pieces together. So like my life was kind of like out of focus. It's kind of like when you go to the eye doctor and there's like, it's number 3 or number 2? And it kind of like, it was like putting the lenses back together, and it's like you can see a lot clearer now.
So when they had diagnosed you with ADHD, did they have you on meds?
I was on Ritalin so I got diagnosed when I was 5 with ADHD. I was on Ritalin for a few years, and then I stopped taking it. I was off of ADHD meds for a long time. It wasn't until I was an adult where I was like, man, all these old coping strategies aren't really helping. And so I went back on ADHD meds, and that helped a little bit. But it also made me not myself. I was on Adderall, and I was a lot more grouchy than normal. Am I already grouchy?
We had a neighbor boy who they diagnosed him with ADHD. They put him on Ritalin and he just went bonkers because actually they found out. And again, back in the day, it wasn't that easy to diagnose, but they realized he was autistic. And so the medicine made him worse rather than better.
Yeah, for me, it did calm me down. I was very disruptive as a kid. I got kicked out of 5 kindergartens, and I even earned the nickname Lucifer because I was that terrible. But hey, so maybe they were like, I just wish that we had known more about autism when I got diagnosed, or with ADHD, then so that I could have gotten diagnosed then and learned to manage. But it was the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Like, what a lot of the advancements around autism came later, like late 90s, early 2000s, and even now we're still learning more.
Yeah.
It just recently got recategorized. For a while there was like Asperger's was a thing, and now it's like got lumped into autism. It's part of
Yeah.
like level 1, and it's so yeah, it's like still an evolving thing, but we know a lot more about it now than we did when in the late 80s, early 90s. That
Yeah.
makes me feel old.
Tell me
Well,
about it.
kudos to you, one, for getting tested, because that's hard when someone's saying, I think you're this.
Mhm.
And then also for going into a hospital, because I know people that need to go into a hospital and they won't. And that's got to be so scary. And then for you to go in and to kind of find your peace and your place, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece that needs to get destigmatized a bit. It's like, yes, there were when I went to the hospital there, I think there were about 20 people in the unit, and about 4 of us weren't people with schizophrenia that were off our meds, or and like that's helpful, but like for us that are struggling with like depression and then need to get checked in, like there's that sense of shame that comes with requiring a higher level of care, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a higher level of care to get you back, to keep you tethered, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing to need that.
No.
I think, and this is just my personal opinion, but and I've said this to my parents, it's hard for people to understand who haven't been in my shoes, to understand what feels like to stand at the edge. And it's not a selfish decision. It's a decision born out of exhaustion, of
Mm.
crying out for help and not being heard or listened to, or like in my case it was like I didn't know what to say
Mm.
and how to ask for help, because there was a huge sense of shame as a man getting abused, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean to sound, I don't mean to sound like not a feminist or whatever, but usually it's, we hear more about women getting abused
Yeah.
than we do men. And as men, we're taught to, suck it up, lift your chin up and don't. And so that's why I didn't say anything. And like, and so it's hard for people to that haven't been pushed to the edge to kind of understand that. And my response to that is, rather than taking that leap, there are other avenues to get help, right? One of them is 988. That's your you could call it or text it. There's someone on the other end that'll help you. But much more than that, and I wish I had known this sooner. I recently became part of the Association for Suicide Prevention. It's a nationwide thing, but they have local chapters, and they have. So I go to the one here for Plymouth County, and you get to talk to fellow survivors. You get to talk to people that have stood at the edge, and people that'll get it,
Mm.
right? That have stood at that edge with you. They know what to say. They know how to listen, and you get that face. There's like, I'm not saying don't text 988. If you like, absolutely text and get help if you need it, but there's also a way to augment that support with that FaceTime. And I think that FaceTime really is helpful. So like combine that,
Mhm.
and I really hope that people can listen to that and make that decision to stay. Like, I know it sucks. Like, I've been there. Like, but I am so grateful I got to stay, because I would have missed out on Katie. I would miss it. Like, Shadow's still kicking. I would have missed out on days without Shadow. Like, where would Shadow be? Right. And it's how do you guys, like, how do you find your tether and reason to stay? And I think one of the, talking to 988 and then talking to someone that has been in your shoes too, can help you find that tether so that you can begin your journey to stay. And then it is so worth it to stay. Like, you don't see, like, people don't see it. I didn't see it when I started this, but it is so worth it.
Well,
Yeah.
and I love that you told your story because, like you said, it's not an easy story, but that's when we can help others, when we can be honest about our story. And that's why we do this podcast. So tell us again the name and title of your book and where we can get it.
It's called Now That I'm Still Here, and you can get it anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart. I always advocate for going to your small local bookshop
Yes.
rather than going to the big box stores because, I think for every dollar you invest in a small business, I think it's like a $6 return. So like I'd rather people support the local business, but sometimes people want that immediate gratification and they go to Amazon with 2 day
Mhm.
shipping. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's anywhere books are sold. And I also have an accompaniment to the book. I have a Substack where I kind of I write a lot of essays on things relating to grief or autism and masking or that struggle with the dark and that finding your tether back to staying on this side of the grass and
How can
Shadow
we
has a
find?
weekly dispatch.
Oh,
Oh,
Shadow does? How can we
oh,
Yeah.
find that?
If you take my first initial and then carazas.substack.com
Okay,
and
so
it'll
we'll post
C
that.
Carazas
Carazas
Yes.
dot Substack.
.com, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, and some of the stuff on there is funny, some of it is not, and some of it is just like meh, but that's called range.
Mhm.
It's I think my favorite is like giving Shadow a voice. She's got like this
Mm.
old Victorian sass voice, and I think if she could talk, she would sound a lot like that. So
Well, I
There's
am
a,
just
go ahead.
so thankful for what you've done and what you're still doing. And I just want to emphasize to anyone listening that so much of what you went through and the emotions you were having, the things that really reflects a lot of what survivors have to deal with. And I think also, like you said, the shame, for male survivors, the shame is huge, and that prevents a lot of men from wanting to ever talk about, let alone seek help. And I think anyone listening, they might think, oh, this is all about autism. I completely disagree. This is about grief and trauma and struggling to find your place, struggling to find out who you are and learning how to thrive with who you are with and understanding yourself. So much of what you went through really reflects a lot of what I had to go through, learning to live with my issues and learning how to, understand my issues and find out how to deal with them and find out how I can get through this world with my issues and not be beaten down by them. And the dark passenger that you speak of, that so reminded me of what I always called the tapes, the tapes in your head. And so, yeah, I think your book was very personal, but it's also very universal in so many ways for survivors of all kinds of trauma.
and a little bit of a selfless plug. There is a gentleman I co-wrote something with who also he specifically tackles the issue, the conversations that men have in their head about not seeking help for trauma, and it's called Man Down. He lost his wife to suicide, I think, like
Mm.
13 years ago, and then subsequently his daughter. And so he's a big advocate on, hey, men, life does suck. It can throw you, or it has the ability to suck. It has the ability to break you down. And so like we kind of found each other because like that's the story I want to tell too. Like, hey, like I'm a man and men suffer too, and we need help, and
Yeah.
that's okay. And we have issues, and we need to address them because like how can we be our best self for work? How can we then be our best self for our spouse or for our kids or just even for ourselves if we don't like really tackle and grapple with our ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it's kind of swimming upstream from what we're often told from the outside of what men should be doing. Like men should just be sitting on the couch watching football, and That's what makes them happy. In my case, it'd be hockey and soccer.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, that's a thing. You can watch your football, but at the same time, you can also reflect on your journey.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I'm very encouraged that you're still writing because, yeah, it's great stuff, Chris. Great stuff.
Well, thank you guys.
Go ahead.
I'm also encouraged by people such as yourselves that are having these conversations and bringing these similar issues and kinds of issues to the forefront too. The opposite side of is much louder, and I think that critical mass is coming where this side will be equally as loud, if not louder.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go, we always pray, but Kevin always has a question. I love that he asks before we do that.
If there's anything you could say to someone who is going through what you were going through, facing what you had to deal with, what is it you would want to tell them?
I think the biggest thing is not ask, why did this happen to me? I think the better question is, why did this happen for me? And I think if you're able to frame it that way, it gives you a sense of a good starting point to reflect on your next move, right? And that next move might be getting the help that you need so that you can change the world. But yeah, like, ask yourself, why did this happen for me, and what do you need to learn so that we can keep you here for another day, because you matter.
Yeah. I
Wow.
spoke with the school principal, and he said he always tells the kids, tomorrow needs you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. And you said something about prayer.
Yeah, we like to close in prayer. Would you like to pray with us?
I
You
mean,
don't have to.
I will respectfully pray with you guys.
Okay.
All right. So that's it for today.
We are going to have a prayer time if you want to stick with us. If not, we believe in you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories.
If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find us. And we really want to spread this message.
Father, I thank you for your blessings and for the blessings of the voices that are being heard, that are being recognized. I just thank you for Chris, the work he's doing, the beautiful words he's written, words of truth and honesty and intimacy and pain, but also words of just absolute beauty. I just pray that his book and his words would be reaching those that need to hear them, that would find that line to hold on to. And I just pray that he would continue to write and continue to help those that are hanging on, that the dark passenger has been overwhelming them, that they could find something to counter that voice that's telling them that they don't matter. And Lord, I just pray for Chris and his journey, that he would continue to be a blessing to those that are fighting with the stigma of autism and spectrum, and would find comfort in knowing that they're not alone. They don't have to be ashamed, that they can be proud of what they are and what they're doing. In your name I pray, Lord.
Father, thank you that Chris chose to stay, and thank you for the failed attempts. And Lord, it's a topic that so needs to be talked about. And Lord, I could see in his face the joy when he was talking about how his story helped other people. And Lord, I just pray that this book will get out and that more people will hear about it, and it would open more dialogue, more conversations. Because I know that so often when we lose someone, the first question is, did you know? And no, we didn't know. And Lord, this is a way for us to see the deeper work and the inner trauma. And I just pray that you will bless Chris as he continues on this journey. And I thank you so much that he crossed our path and reached out. In your son's holy name, amen.
Amen.